All right. Damn it. Alright, we should be good to go. We make a new. Oh no. Hold on. Did this mess up? Hold on. 1 second. All right. Yeah. Now we should be good. Damn it. I think it gave it a nice little buffer anyway, so we should be okay with that. Where is my mouse, bro?
Harley, leave it.
Oh man. Wait, why can I not hear you guys anymore?
Harley.
Oh, I heard something.
Yo, yo, yo.
There you go. Bro, what is happening with my mouse right now? God.
You can hear me too?
Yeah, I can hear you. For some reason my freaking mouse just disappeared.
Mouse?
Fuck.
Get some cheese.
Shut up, Walt. I can't see like where the cursor is. It's just so weird.
Hey, you know that meme? Not in front of my salad. Now it has to be now on the strawberries.
Oh god.
Oh man.
Okay, now alright, mouse reappeared. Alright, we're good. We are Gucci. Let's check on sound, shall we? Let's see. Shut up,
whatever you
Walt.
want.
I
Do
can't
whatever
see.
you want.
Alright, sounds good. But can one of you guys just double check since I can't distinguish these sounds right now.
Well, you want me to?
I'm checking right now.
Okay.
Dance, monkey, dance.
Because while you do that, I'm just gonna throw it up on Twitter here. And it will be good to go. Welcome to the pre-show rambles, people.
Okay, it sounds good. Wait, do I? Okay, I sound okay.
You good?
Yep. I think. Let me. If you can, Macho.
What's
If
up?
you hear it, well, then perfect. And just make sure everyone's volumes are fine on your end. Have to increase the volume on Discord or anything.
I mean, I
Oh,
mean,
Jesus Christ.
as far as like in this party chat or just in the YouTube live?
So for YouTube to register it as louder or lower, you would have to adjust it on your end on Discord.
Okay. I mean, everything looks okay. Unless.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure on your end, you know that.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. No, I think
Yes, sir.
we're good there. Let's see. All right. That's that. Feel free to start whenever you guys are ready. I'm just making the tweet right now.
Okay. Guys, welcome back to our post-show discussion of the Last of Us series on HBO. This week we will be talking about and having a in-depth discussion on episode 3 called Long Long Time, right? That's what it's called?
Long time. Yeah. Long time.
Cool. I didn't ask for the comment in there, Walt. All right.
Yeah, well, I added it, so.
um, but yeah, so just as we've been doing the past 2 weeks, we're just gonna sit around the campfire and have a little discussion on the episode, what we liked, possibly what we didn't like. Just having a talk about it. So yeah, let me introduce my co-hosts here. I have Walt here first and foremost. How you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic. The produce is coming in swimmingly. We got a lot of strawberries and we got a lot of wood to chop.
We also got Macho here. What's going on, man?
I'm doing good, man. We're doing it's a nice little surprise stream for you guys. I'm excited. I've been thinking about this episode all day, no lie. So I'm ready to talk about it.
Yeah, I had just to kind of kick off this conversation. Actually, before we do, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all that stuff. So yeah, I feel like I had like a weird experience with this episode because, like, as you two know, like, I was, for whatever reason, I was struggling to actually be able to watch this episode. Like, as soon as, like, I was sitting in front of my TV as soon as that clock's hit 9. I was like, okay, let's do this. I was ready. I had my controller cursor over the start button, and just for whatever reason, it was like, this video is unavailable right now. So then I was like, okay, is this like an HBO slash Amazon problem? So like I went to the other HBO Max shows that I've been watching, and like I could watch those no problem. So like I legit couldn't watch this thing until like 1 in the morning or something like that, and then I finally watched it. But finally
Damn, it
got
was
to
telling
it.
you you can only watch Velma at this point in time. You can't watch The Last
Oh,
of Us.
can you imagine? Can you imagine? But yeah, I finally got to it, and I'm imagining just like you guys, where I was absolutely like floored by this episode. What about you guys?
Yeah. Surprised, shocked, flabbergasted, destroyed, a plethora of adjectives.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I would have to say the same thing, man. Man, I had no idea where it was going. And even though I said this before, I was so excited and just anticipating this episode with all of the fibers of my being, and for it to end up the way it did, and absolutely just, man, I was a wreck by the end.
Yeah, for sure. I guess let's just jump into like the meat of this episode, which is
Yep.
Bill and Frank's. All right, man. That's actually a good. I was. What's
That's
funny?
a
What's
good
funny is
transition.
that
Come on, you gotta give him the flowers on that one.
what's funny is that I was gonna say meat and potatoes, but I was like, oh, I hate that saying, so I'm not gonna say it. And that just made it worse. That just made it worse.
We're just gonna get into the meat of this.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, the main crux of this episode essentially is Bill and Frank, and I think like I guess I could kind of understand, but at the same time, I just feel like it's a little bit weird. So I'm sure you guys have seen the main complaint from the game fans, and not obviously not all of them, but there's a very like vocal minority that's like, oh, this thing wasn't accurate. This didn't happen in the game. Blah blah blah. And I'm just like, what I feel like this episode did such a good job of is that, like, sure, it is a big deviation. We didn't get all of this in the game, but at the same time, like, it's still like did such a good job of like taking our like base understanding of these two characters, what we knew about them in the game, and then just like blowing that up times 10, and just like really just getting like the nitty gritty of these two characters and fleshing them out in a way that like I feel like is exactly what I wanted from this show. Is exactly what I wanted from The Witcher, right? I say this all the time, is that like with these sorts of things, I don't want a one-to-one adaptation. Like I want you to take the opportunities, like me, Macho, we talk about this all the time with The Witcher, that there's like so many things in those books that have been like hinted at, only hinted at, and in the show you have the opportunity to really flesh those things out that never really got their chance in the spotlight. And I feel like this episode was that exact thing that like I always want these things to do, is to actually go ahead and do that. Give us more context about these characters. Help us understand why Bill is the way that he is in the game when we meet him, for example, right? So, I mean, how did you guys feel about this episode, quote unquote, deviating so much from the source material?
Kick it off, Macho. I want to hear what you guys say first.
Yeah, I mean,
Wait, I cut off?
no.
No. Kick
Oh,
it
okay.
off, Macho. No.
Oh, okay. I thought you said I cut off. I was like, what?
Oh no.
No, I don't even know where to begin because I was anticipating a lot from this one because a lot of the scenes from the game, or at least the moments in the game, are so iconic and are just really just a lot of fun in general. Just actually going through the town, going to the school, seeing the bloater for the first time, right? All that's just cemented into my brain, and it's such a worthwhile experience no matter how many times I played The Last of Us. So to kind of come into episode 3 here and to be really blown away, but not only just the performances, but the way they took the story in a direction that I was just not anticipating whatsoever. I thought like we were gonna get like a mini love story here, and then halfway through the episode we're gonna get the rest of what the game offered, and just beat for beat the same thing, same exciting tones and everything. And we didn't get that at all. But instead, what we got was something completely raw and emotional. And I haven't felt this depressed after an episode since watching The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. That just absolutely wrecked me. Every emotion possible was felt like in that entire series. I felt in this one episode because of the way they told it and how beautifully it was told. Honestly, I can't see a better alternative other than the fact of being true to the game, because while yes I would have loved to see the stuff that I experienced in the game but in live action form with these versions of these characters, I can't see another perfect way to tell Bill's story with Frank and how beautifully that just was told. And man, like I thought about that ending so much today. The music, the words, the everything from it was just perfect, pitch perfect in my eyes. So while it was a big deviation, while the game fan part of me is like, ah, man, I wish we could have seen that. I'm not disappointed.
Yeah, and also the fact that we got, inside the episode, little commentary we got at the end. Neil specified how the only moments that they're gonna deviate is if it only improves upon the version in the game. And in this case, for them, this episode encapsulates a better version of Bill and Frank's story, which, quite frankly, what we didn't get, I think it's mostly obviously banter between Bill and Ellie. In the game, we got a lot of that. They don't get along, and that's like entertaining. But I'll be honest, I this worked for me way more because although depressing, it gives two characters quite frankly happy, quote unquote, happier ending that it did in the game as well. Because in the game, spoilers for the game, Bill finds Frank hanging uh, from the ceiling, and there's a letter left from Frank to Bill. And there's hints at them having something more than just a partnership. Well, in this one, not only was the letter towards someone else, the ending was for both of them together, and there was mutual understanding. Like there's a lot of things you can argue between, intention and whatever, but in this case, I really think that they went the best direction they could have with this story. Mind you mentioned at the beginning that there's been a vocal minority that hasn't liked the adaptation, but honestly,
Specifically this episode.
it's specifically this episode. Yeah. Specifically this episode, because this truly is a starkly different version of that story. But also, think about this. Let's say we do get a beat by beat, telling of what happened in the game. One of the biggest reveals of this section is the bloater. In the game, you get the bloater reveal during Bill's Town. In this case, you were gonna garner that expectation of, oh, if they're doing it 1-to-1, we're gonna see the bloater now. No, first of all, we saw the bloater in the teaser trailer. There was like fire around it. It was a nighttime, so I don't know when this motherfucker is gonna get introduced. First of all, second, it was only gonna be action then, and I don't think that's the tone that this show is trying to go for. While there is action, the teaser for episode 4 is action, but in this case, they're trying to really set up what the apocalypse did to humanity and how, even though it was bleak and depressing, and Joel has done so much stuff, and he's indicated with Tess. There's also a lot of beauty in it. You have moments like Frank saying, "Hey, I want to tidy up the neighborhood." He wants the lawnmower. He wants to paint. He wants to make this look presentable. Just show love that way. I don't know. It was a beautiful way of them portraying the other side of love that Neil Druckmann is so, fascinated with, versus the more, we're willing to do whatever it takes for the loved ones. But in this case, it was a lot more beautiful in that sense.
Yeah. And even like in terms of like deviations or just giving more like context and fleshing out characters more, I also really like what they did with both Joel and Tess and their relationship. I mean, this is something that again that the game sort of like hinted at, but you can kind of draw or jump to your own conclusions about, exactly what they meant to each other in the game. But just kind of getting the reveal that no, like these two have been together for like what, like 10 13 years or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like half of the apocalypse.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I just thought that
Wait,
was like a really
the outbreak broke in 2003, right?
yeah
Yeah, and it's
2003,
23.
and then we see them together with Bill and Frank in 2010, I want to say.
It's like 13 years, yeah.
Yeah, I
Hey,
think
Well,
yeah.
that's seven right there, but
It's either got together in 2007 or 2010. I forgot what it was. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
no, I mean that was what I wanted to add to that point, but yeah, I don't know, I really appreciate like little stuff like that. It was really really cool to see, um, but yeah, and just like seeing the differences between like that version of like early Apocalypse, Tess and Joel in comparison to like what they look like when we meet them in the first episode, right? Like it is such a big difference, right?
yeah, yeah. They seem even more hopeful. And I would assume that that version of Tess and Joel had not done half of the thing that they keep alluding to. Because I don't know, I might be having, amnesia right now, but they never explicitly say what it is that Joel and Tess did that make them this infamous, right?
No. That's definitely like one of those things that's like up to interpretation.
Interpretation, which I wonder, which because we get so many. Which, by the way, guys, that transition to the past was brutal. Showing the
Yeah, really good.
skeletons on the floor of the child and the mom, and then going to them alive. I was like, "Oh, we're doing this. We're
Yeah,
doing
that
this."
hit hard, man. Oh my gosh, I teared
Give
up
me
a little bit
Fallout
just
vibes.
seeing that. Yeah.
Give me like Fallout 4 vibes when you're like everyone's trying to get to the bunker and avoid like the apocalypse. It was insane. It was just so good. And Nick Offerman, and I forget Frank's actor's name. Both of them. Oh my god. This is what happens when Ron Swanson is tired of the government and he goes to his little village and he sets up to no one. And no new world order is gonna take care of him. This was amazing. It's so good. It's
Yeah,
so
it
good.
was. I'm just floored by like how quickly like because I'm gonna be honest, like Bill in the game, I'm just like, yeah, he's like it. The joy that I get out of that character is his arguments with Ellie, right? And it pretty much like stops there. But I'm really impressed with just like how like immediate you feel like a connection or you just care about Bill like right from the jump. I feel like, um,
Sure.
yeah. So like, and I wanted to ask you guys, when was the moment that the tears started hitting for you guys? Like, can you guys remember exactly? Was it multiple times, or was there like a single moment that you can recall that it was like, okay, this is the moment that like that did it for me, that broke me?
What was it for you, Macho?
There were multiple times. I mean, the first one we talked about was the flashback of like the skull and bones, and then you see like the mother holding the baby, and you could piece together obviously that it was the same woman that died needlessly. So that was a bit of a tearjerker. I
Yeah,
just
and that and to that point right there, Macho, that's
yeah.
that's again what I'm talking about just like fleshing out not only the characters but the world more. So like getting to learn about not only and speaking about Joel, you're starting to see that shell kind of crack a little bit. Him saying to Ellie that like, oh, this is something that you shouldn't see. It's not gonna hurt you, but like I would rather you not see it. And then just like once they actually do reach that sort of site with all those skeletons that you're talking about, you get into Joel explaining that like, hey, when the QZs were filled up, they would take people, they would tell these people, oh, no, we're just moving you somewhere else, but in reality, they would just like kill those people. And then Joel says that, well, Ellie asks like, why would they do that? And he responds with, you can't get infected if you're dead, right? So like just kind of getting that like a deeper understanding and background of like the wider The Last of Us world, right? I think it is also like another area where this episode really, really succeeded, where the game necessarily didn't really get into, right? So yeah, just wanted to mention that, but yeah, continue.
Yeah, no, it was definitely that, and I mean the one scene everybody on social media is talking about is Bill's speech at the end, and he
The
pours.
letter?
No. The confession that he's gonna go with Frank as well. You know, he's gonna die with Frank as well, and just you were my purpose. And the exact quote I'm just blanking just because it was just an emotional ride, man. Just like I'm old. What was it? I'm satisfied.
Satisfied.
and you were my
That's fine. Yeah.
yeah, and you were my purpose. That just absolutely broke me because I mean, someone that is married understands that kind of selfless love, and I feel like Craig Mason just captured that so beautifully in words I've never heard expressed for love. Even someone like me that's a big romantic, seeing that kind of displayed and like reflecting on how much I love Sammy, just absolutely tore me up because I understand it. You know, I understand that kind of selfless love there. And I felt it twice in my life, and it once was when I was first dating Sammy, and then when we got married, and the second was when I met my nephew for the first time when he was first born. And both are two different kinds of loves for sure, but the emotional, overwhelming power of it is indescribable. But somehow Craig Mazin put into words, and
Man,
Also,
it was that.
I think I also feel like why that scene hits for like so many people is because and like for someone like you, Macho, who is married, is because like that's the end goal in life, right? To get to a point like that, that's like what we all want in that position. Um, so I think that was the part that like resonated like and hit so hard is because like this like yes, this was depressing as hell, but the fact that they were both able to get to a point with each other to say that like, hey, like I lived a life that I can walk away from and feel like I got everything I needed out of my life, right? Like I have no regrets. Like I'm good. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
to me that hit like so hard. Like because again, yes, it was really this whole episode was really sad, but like that felt like that felt like that was the moment that like kind of like reeled me back in terms of like I'm okay now. Like I'm not a mess anymore like on the couch, but like that felt like truly like I felt good just knowing that they could walk away from this feeling like they're satisfied with their life, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's also the fact that I was thinking about Bill from the game and thinking just how incredible it is that this time he had a choice because he knew what Frank was what was going to happen to Frank, what he chose to do, uh, and it was still in the same themes of the game where he wanted to go on his own terms in a way, uh, but also beautiful because they didn't have anything aside from getting married. It was a normal day. You know, they had breakfast, they picked up some outfits, uh, and they had their normal banter like they always did in the last I don't know how many years they spent together. It was like almost a decade, right? Um,
A little bit more actually.
more than a decade together, and just seeing how happy Bill gets and satisfied when he's like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. Because what broke me, various moments in the show, there was a specific moment when they cut to when Bill gets injured, and it cuts to like 10 more years or in the future, and then it shows someone in the wheelchair. I was like, oh wow, Bill got really hurt. But no, when they show it was Frank and who was sick, I was destroyed because that was so real. And you think in an apocalypse, there's no treatment, and then you find out, oh, it was probably I think it's probably cancer or something that he had. Like,
I think it was like a muscular degenerative disease, something like that. They explained it in
yeah.
like the podcast after the episode.
Okay, perfect. Then they have he has a disease that didn't even have a cure back when civilization was up. Which also think about how civilization didn't go further than 2003. So there's a lot of things that we have now to have. So the civilization for them is antiquated even by like normal standards,
Including
even
the
if they
legalization of gay marriage, I believe. So
yeah. So it was, and I love that they didn't talk about it. So it was very subtle, you know. There's no girl, and that was it. That was it. There was no need to talk. I love the way that they keep touching on the themes and the topic of LGBT because I assume we're gonna get further into the future when we get to that. But we already got a glimpse of that in the last episode. But I absolutely loved how they went on their own terms. They had the same dinner that they had when they first met. He was able to get to Bill. He cracked Bill. He was able to make Bill a different person. They actually change in the apocalypse with no one around, just Joel and Tess, and I assume some other people. Uh, they were able to live their lives. They lived more in an apocalypse than most people do nowadays with all of the things that they have. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful the way that they went out.
I'm
And
glad you
heartbreaking.
said I'm glad you said that, Well, because I listened to that podcast this morning, and it was really enlightening and hopeful when Craig and Neil were both singing. It's not singing, but like saying in tune that Bill and Frank in this version of The Last of Us, this live action adaptation, they won. They win the apocalypse
Yeah,
because they died happy. And
absolutely.
and who else in this series is gonna end like that?
No one else.
Who
Practically,
else can say
practically
that?
no one. Yeah.
No,
So they
yeah,
win. They won, and that's such a
they won.
beautiful ending. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And it
also.
was
Oh
what's that?
god.
No, no, continue.
Just a little like aside to because you brought up the whole when Bill gets shot during the whole Raider scene, which I thought just like in terms of like how that whole scene looked, I thought it looked incredible with the whole fire in the background, and it being at night and the rain just pouring down really really hard. I just
Yep.
love the chaoticness of that entire scene. Um, but I also really really loved that like so like Bill's on the table and Frank is tending to his wound. He's pouring the alcohol in the wound and everything, and Bill is obviously in his mind. He's like, I'm going to die right here. So the last thing, and he's not even like worried about himself, right? He's thinking about Frank and how obviously he doesn't want Frank to be alone. So what does he say? He's like, find Joel or get Joel. Joel will take care of you. Right. And I think that's just such a cool thing because like we know that those two aren't necessarily the best of friends or anything like that, but he does have a mutual respect for Joel, and I don't know, I just thought it was so cool that like, yes, this is someone that he doesn't like, but he knows that he knows that at the very least he is someone that he can trust to protect the man that like he loves or the one thing that he truly cares about in this world, right? So I thought that was a really really cool little scene.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. Were you guys
Go
as
ahead.
surprised as I was when Frank said he was talking to a woman on the radio and then it cut to Joel and Tess? Because I was like Leonardo DiCaprio and Once Upon a Time in California, or whatever that movie was, the pointing meme. I was like, Joel and Tess.
I, I don't think that was me because I forget if it was the episode preview or some bit of footage that they shared during the marketing or something like that. But like I saw that scene in advance, so like I knew it was coming at some
Okay.
point. Yeah,
Gotcha. No, this episode, I love how their situation, their relationship was a stark contrast to the little hint that we get at the beginning of the episode. Because we first get a couple minutes with Ellie and Joel, and we get a moment where we get to see Ellie's very, very repressed, soon to be unleashed anger that she has, and that fury that she has inside of her, that ire, when she's, like not playing around, but kind of like prodding with the clicker that was under the rubble in that store that they were looking for merchandise or for supplies rather. Uh, that's the second time that you get to see Ellie kind of appreciating violence slash like being aggressive. Because the first time is when Joel beats up that Fedra soldier. She's like looking in awe, like, oh wow, like so that's what's up. Like
yeah.
that's what's happening right now.
Like I don't even think it's like suppressed anger or anything like that. I just think it's like pure like sadistic sort of things that are just like underneath the skin. That's just like I don't know. You see little
Sure.
bits and pieces of it like coming out.
Yeah.
And it's such a good because like I don't necessarily think we got a lot of that in the original game, but it's like they're leaving these little breadcrumbs behind where now you can be like, okay, her jump from The Last of Us Part 1 to The Last of Us Part 2 is a logical jump, and you can see the little breadcrumbs that they're leaving behind it. And I guess it makes more sense for the people that have a problem with that, with how she is in Part 2.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're
that's
right.
that's me. That's exactly me. Because the one thing when I'm playing The Last of Us Part Two that I couldn't wrap my mind around, that got me so frustrated, was that this is not the Ellie that I know. So
mhm.
why is she so like? I get it. You're fighting for someone. There's like an unrelenting love there that she had for Joel, and she's just taking it out with hate and anger and violence. But like from part one, I didn't get that sense about her. So that's why this what we're seeing in the breadcrumbs in the show. I'm just like, oh, dude, this is deep. This is gonna go
It's like
somewhere.
it's always been there, you know? It's always been
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
I mean,
I think
yeah,
it's really cool.
there are ways that they set up, but that's another topic. But in this case, the way that they're setting up that she always had this in her versus a, because I understand how someone can be like emotionally charged because reasons. I know there's a whole can of worms, but in this case, you also in the end you get a glimpse of the Ellie that you know from the game. The more the kid, the person that you don't even know that if she has trauma inside of her or not. She doesn't know what a car is or a seatbelt is. She's never been in a car. She's listening to music, probably like actual music for the first time in a long time. So
Or the
I don't
airplane
know.
scene.
Or yeah. Oh, you get the little. You guys caught it? Her comment. She said it's like a spaceship. Yeah, you got that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I did that
Yeah,
because that's one of the best flashbacks in Last of Us Part Two.
Oh, spoilers, Macho. God.
um,
which
going
which
back. Oh, go
which
ahead.
which also have in mind, we also got a scene that was a one-to-one. Because to your point, Soul, while I don't want a one-to-one adaptation fully, there are moments like do what I say when I say. There are moments that are one-to-one to the game in terms of dialogue, but it somehow doesn't detract from everything else that's being deviated from. So I like the cohesion there.
Going back to the original question, the moment that made us cry, I think for me, it was I think literally the final time when Bill wheelchairs Frank into the room before they die. Um, I don't know. I guess it was just like the recognition of like, oh, we're never seeing these two again. I think it was probably that, and I think that was the only time in the episode that actually made me like tear up a little bit. Um, and yeah, and then I also just love how like the letter too. I think the letter is it's just so damn good too, right? Because like it's so Bill, right? Like even the laughing
The
part where
giggle.
Ellie, yeah,
and
it's so good.
and,
But
and
also
Bella's delivery is amazing.
but also just how heartbreaking it was that like um him saying that like god, I wish I had that letter like word for word, but him saying that like I used to not really care about anyone or anything in the world until I did find that one thing that I loved, and I protected that thing. And then it made him realize that men like him and Joel are here for a specific reason, and that is to protect. um and then he brings up tests, and that obviously gets to Joel. He has to go outside, but I just love that letter so much. And then also just the added detail of like Bill again being Bill saying like, "Hey, don't go into the room. I left the window open so the so the house won't smell." Um, but yeah, just that letter, man. And then again, just like I I think they showed a lot of restraint because a lot of people are like, "Oh, like Naughty Dog is too gruesome," and specifically the like clip your wings scene. Like I know a lot of people had problems with that scene, like they didn't want to actually see that, but
That scene's awesome,
I
man.
think,
so, so
but I think
brutal.
I think I think with this they showed like such. Could you imagine if they actually showed their bodies in that final scene? Like that, I feel like that would have been too much. Like I
Yeah.
think I think to have the recognition to show some restraint, to be like, we just need to show the open window, pan into the house a little bit, and show Joel and Ellie driving off, right? And that's it. We don't need to show you the two bodies because you already know what happened, right? So I thought that was a really, really smart like artistic choice on their end. And again, just ending it off with that window, because that window to us game fans is so iconic with the way that part two ends, the way that the part one opens with the main menu in the window, right? That window is such a symbolic, like iconic thing for the Last of Us games. To end this episode off in that way, I thought was just like, it was like the perfect like wrapping this episode in a bow, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, think about it. We got to see their live on full, and it's the kind of thing where your family member, when you don't want to see them in their worst state, it's been a
Exactly.
minute.
Yeah.
it's been a minute since they've been, dead, and in a way, the show wants you to remember them at their best when they were the happiest and satisfied.
Point.
They don't want you to see them decayed, probably be to let out the smell. It's overgrown. The Billstown it's been a minute, so what you're gonna see is the classic from Last of, because in Last of Us you see a bunch of these, the classic skeletons with moss around them, or like it's like moist around them and very grotesque, and we don't want to see that. We just want to remember Bill and Frank having some steak and chopping some wood.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it mostly as like a form of respect for their decision, even if they are fictional characters. It's like it's just more of like it's a creative choice that goes beyond the screen and beyond the page, that I found that I was just immense amount of respect for that. And on top of that, ending on the window, like you said, Soul, is like such a pinpoint for game fans, because that window it means so many different things and it evokes so many different emotions. And in The Last of Us, it means quite a bit more than what people really realize. But in this episode, it's essentially it's hope, it's freedom, and it's the ability to make your own choices and to have the privacy of that. I thought it was really beautiful.
I mean, yeah, the very, very, very last frame in Last of Us Part 2 is a window open, and the way that it's set up, it's also, there is hope. There's definitely hope in that ending. It's just hard to have it after everything that goes by.
Truly.
But yeah, no, because a lot of things happen to Ellie. A lot of things going on. You know what happens. But in this case, I really appreciate how they
Not
kept
him. He didn't finish it.
What?
I said not him. He didn't finish part 2.
Hey man, you
No,
didn't even
but
play
no,
Last of Us
he
Part
just-
1. Don't get on me at this one.
Hey,
He claims that he knows the ending. That's why he didn't finish it, because he got spoiled. But
This
then
is
he doesn't
wild
know.
to me. I didn't even I made it halfway through part 2 and I'm getting railed here. Meanwhile, the
Yeah.
host of this podcast didn't even finish the damn game. Didn't even play the
Yeah,
game.
Then only my opinion matters. Then neither of yours matter.
I don't know about that.
No, but fantastic episode. And let me say this. I mean, it's been 3 episodes, but this has been the most beautiful episode, the best shot episode. Like, there's some moments. There's a lot of wallpapers in this episode. Like, beautiful, beautiful moments where there's no camera movement. It's just them panning on, them moving from the street back and forth, or Bill doing a bunch of modifications to the town. Little moments of comedy, Home Depot and the light goes out, and oh wow, that was quick. That it's such a lighthearted and heavy episode. And if people are complaining there's not enough action violence, next episode is he's not hurt. Oh, that's that whole sequence. You about to go, because we gonna meet some people. Oh man, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I wanted to sorry, so go for it.
Well, go ahead. You can go first.
I-
I was trying to think if what I was gonna say was long or not. I don't know if it is.
I just wanted to ask you both of so far 3 episodes in, what do you guys think of The Last of Us take on love is? Like at least how are you perceiving it now, because we're getting in Last of Us, it's not very apparent that the story is about love, right? But we're 3 episodes in and we're seeing such stark examples of it. And episode 3 being I would say probably the most hopeful of the entire series. What are you guys taking from this? Do you like it? Do you agree with it, or do you wish it was something a little different? Like, what's your take?
Well, I think the biggest thing that this episode really cemented, and it's like people, because people are saying that talking again about the deviations and things like that, and how this episode to them apparently felt like filler because it was just it didn't move the story along. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen that complaint as well, that it quote unquote didn't move the story along. And I'm like, we still I think the most important thing that we got from this is Bill giving Joel that extra push, right, with the letter. And I think to your question, Macho, is that if anything, this apocalypse, it fucking grinds people to dust. It makes people like Bill believe that there is nothing in this world worth fighting for, or living for, or that you can just like detach yourself from the rest of the world and just kind of be fine. But I think what this episode really showed is that like no, there are still things out in this horrible timeline to still attach yourself to and still find meaning in and still live for, right? And that is like despite all of this and the apocalypse and blah blah blah, it is still like we are still capable of making human connections throughout this thing, throughout this whole apocalypse. And yeah, I think that was kind of like the biggest thing that I got from this is that even though like the world is turning to shit, like humanity somehow still I guess pun intended, it still endures and survives, right? It still goes on. Humanity still goes on. So yeah, I think that was kind of like the biggest thing I got from this.
Yeah. I mean, it goes to show just how much, now I appreciate the countryside even more. I'm glad I'm from the countryside. That's where I'm going to be when the apocalypse happens. Because also, they establish just how much the government or the remnants of the government changed. That plays a big factor because, you know, there's ways of being happy, that's for sure. But your situation also will vary. Because if you live in a QZ, you're not happy. You're not happy in this world. Because there's just literally what how Bill called them, the government's literally Nazis right now. Like there are a bunch of a-holes that are just trying to command, and a lot of them kind of like that power. Um, but I really like how Frank represented that love can be shown in other ways other than, through violence. He if he has to pick up a gun, he picks up a gun. When he has to go for Bill and help him, he's like, I gotta do it. Uh, but it also shows that love takes many forms, and if people complain that the story is not moving forward, it's like you said, Soul, the push that Joel got, and not only that, the push that Ellie got, because Ellie now is seeing that there's everything goes on here basically in the open world, not just in the orphanage or in the mall. Like there's all sorts of stories, and that maybe it's not all bleak. While for Joel it might seem like hope might be dying, because if now you think about it, that little dinner that they had, all four of them, come back to that. It's only Joel now. Everyone at that table is dead except for Joel. Like that's depressing. That has to be super, super heavy on Joel's shoulders. So now this mission is everything. But for Ellie, it's the building of hope, while for Joel is the destroying of it. But then they meet halfway, the surrogate daughter and all this thing. I really love how this episode moved the story forward, because it did. Okay, it did move it forward. It was beautiful. And Bill and Frank, that's the power couple. That's goals right there. Strawberries, bro. I want to get that happy for a strawberry. God damn.
I mean,
Well,
I know you're joking, but like that scene is
it was
so damn good.
beautiful.
Yeah, just because like think about it, they haven't had strawberries in God knows how long.
Years.
Yeah.
Years. Now think about you've never had food, like actual food. We've only been eating steaks that have been probably going bad.
It kind of reminded me of the Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, when Frodo and Sam were going up the Mount Doom, and they were just struggling to get up there, and Frodo falls into Sam's arms, and Sam tries to kind of bring him back to reality here, and so he kind of gives him flashbacks of the Shire. Said, "Do you remember the taste of strawberries?" And then
Okay.
Frodo responds, I can't recall the taste of food or the sound of water." And it's like little things like that you just don't really think about when it comes to what makes life, what makes like moments in your life.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
They took a shower. Yeah, that's another thing. They took showers. Frank was so happy.
Yeah.
Frank was like, 5 more minutes. This is amazing. You know?
Yeah.
It's baffling how the things that truly bring happiness are the things that add up every day. Those little moments of respite, those little moments of happiness. That's what really makes a kind of a worthwhile life. And Frank said it. I've had a lot of bad days, but the good ones outweigh the bad. And he's had bad days with Bill. That was the moment that it destroyed. It was Bill's realization of what Frank wanted to do, and he was in the couch alone, like on the couch, and Frank was on his wheelchair, and he was like twiddling his like hands, he's like fidgeting, he was crying, and I was like, oh my God, Bill, like this is the Bill I want. This is my Bill. Hashtag my Bill. That was
One
so
of
good.
one of the other things that I really like in just like all, I guess, TV games, whatever, that deal with time in some sort of way is this kind of thing where, and I think Dark does this a lot, is where characters in the present day are visiting places from that we get to see how they looked like, or other characters were in the past, if that makes sense. So like think about like Horizon Zero Dawn, like the moment where Aloy sees Ted Faro kill the alphas, and it's like, yes, you get to see like a recording of that moment play out, but then it's like it's so spooky, like walking around that room and seeing like all the skeletons there, because it's like it is literally this place that was lived in, right? Or just like going to like old, torn down, broken down societies and things like that, that like in one day in the past, like we're fully lived in, and there were children running down the streets and things like that. And so like this episode felt like specific, like particularly eerie in that sense, because it's like, man, like we just saw like these two characters like walking around this community and in this house, in Bill's house, and now it's like in going back to present day and now seeing Joel and Ellie interact with those same things that Bill and Frank were just interacting with a couple months ago, right? I don't know, like I just love that sort of kind of thing that a lot of shows or games do, where it's like you have a present day character interacting with things that a character decades ago was interacting with. I think it's just like the coolest thing.
Yeah, you just described Horizon in a nutshell, in it, because you're just visiting. I mean, the moment when she sits next to Elizabeth's corpse, and you kind of remember Elizabeth sitting down and being like, "This is where I'm gonna stick," and thinking, "Wow, this used to be her home. This used to be where she would come, on a tire afternoon or evening." Um, no, it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing, and that's The Last of Us also in a nutshell, in it. What's with like Sony and like these upsetting like worlds? Golly.
And what's funny to that point is that like people think that this is it, that this is the saddest that it gets, right? I'm like, just wait until we get to Sam and Henry,
Oh,
Oh,
dude,
right?
dude,
And
the
I
internet's
was
not ready.
and like I was talking about the farm scene or whatever, with the whole you're treading on mighty thin ice, which is like my favorite scene in the entire game.
well, that's the best scene. That's the best scene right there.
That scene, right? The
Everyone's
ending.
fucking left me except for you. Oh my god.
Yeah, the ending, like there is still so much. Good lord, like they're also doing Left Behind as well, right? So
Oh
like the
man.
thing is, like, bro, HBO, Neil, Craig, like they are putting us through the goddamn ringer each and every week with this show, man.
Dude,
Like, it's
when
crazy.
Ellie meets David, like that whole, I'm dreading that, because that's when shit actually hits the fan for her.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh man, and if this was sad, if this was sad and they would executed this, that it's the fact that I don't know if they're gonna do exactly like the game, the Sam and Henry situation. If they do, we're gonna physically there won't be an audience because we're all gonna like combust from the inside.
Oh, I know how. I know. I can't wait to see if they do have like a 1-to-1 of what happens in the game. I can't wait to watch reactions, dude.
Yeah, you masochist.
Because like it's such a like I remember my reaction like it was yesterday, man. And I played that game when it came out in 2013. I remember my exact reaction when it happened. So I can't even
That's exactly where
imagine
we're
in the
going.
next show. It's gonna be
That's
crazy.
the next thing. That's the next thing. Cause it's how did they meet like hiding in a building, right? Right after the he's not hurt. Like it's right after that. It's
I
just like
think
a
so.
couple of minutes
Yeah.
after that. So we're right at the cusp of being the preso expresso. And that's another thing. You mentioned the reaction, bro. Because when that situation happens, you cut to fall, right? And they're like by a river, and they're trying to reach Tommy. I literally, my Joel just stood there, because I was like, I can't. Am I supposed to play now? I
I was
cannot
stunned.
play after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And Gustavo's soundtrack just makes it even
Oh,
worse
dude, that was
because when it
crazy.
happens and it cuts to black and ding, 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 ding. So oh my god,
Yeah, yeah. How'd
man.
it go? How'd it go?
It's
We
so
don't need to
good.
hear that again. We don't need to hear it again.
Nah, you don't need
No,
you need
no,
to hear it.
I'm about to be like Bill when he saw Frank started singing. He was like, no, 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 all right, stop. I'm about to be like that right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you guys have any closing thoughts before we get out of here? Anything, any last things you want to touch on? Did we give Joel and Ellie enough? Did we talk about them enough?
I mean, we'll talk about them
I
all.
mean, Joe got his iconic green shirt, and Ellie got her red shirt.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Um,
They took a
She stole a
shower.
gun. She stole a gun.
she
She,
stole a
yeah,
gun. Yeah.
the toy gun that, I mean, toy because it's small, but it's the small gun that she has on in the game. Yeah, she finally has it now.
Oh, one thing I did want to point out actually was when Frank and when Frank was wanted to surprise Bill with the strawberries, and then he asks, "How'd you get them?" He's like, "Well, I traded one of your guns." He's like, "Which gun?" "The little one." I wonder if that little gun was the revolver that Joel has.
Oh, could be.
Because that's the one
I
thing I was
mean,
thinking about this morning. I was like, I wonder if he gave him the revolver. That would
the
be
most lethal
crazy.
one.
Because Ellie stole Frank's gun. So
Right. Yeah, the one he picks up that night when the Raiders are attacking.
yeah.
Which we got a glimpse, and people are about to realize this. Clickers are the least of your worries. Like, this world, clickers are in the back. I mean, mind you, they established that clickers are hard to kill in the show. Obviously, it's a show, it's not a game. The game, you need a lot of them to get through a level. But wait until winter hits. Then y'all are gonna be shivering for sure. But in terms of this episode, that's a 10 out of 10 for me, bro. That's the best episode so far. The best deviation, the best possible deviation they could have done. I cannot wait to see what they do in the future. I am certain that Neil's vision and Craig's vision is going the right way whenever they decide to deviate completely. Because the philosophy is, if it becomes better, we deviate. If in the game it's perfect, keep it that way. And that's beautiful. I can't wait. Can't wait to be sad for the next 6 more weeks.
I do feel like and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this episode. I've loved all three of these episodes, but I do wonder if they do continue to deviate, like, do you guys think that opens the floodgates to like more like major changes? Like, could we get to a point where it's like, okay, like it's like a, what's that saying? It's a slippery slope, right? At that point, because if you do continue to like start, which I'm totally okay with the deviations they made in this episode, but if they continue to do this, it's like what is it like? Can they just change now like everything? You know what I mean? So like I wonder how far, like where do they draw the line, right? Like what do they think is like, okay, we absolutely can't touch this, but then other things, we can, completely change. I'm not saying that they would ever change something like Joel's death, but like I do wonder, like,
Spoiler.
right.
That's a god damn, man. That's like a big one. Shut,
But
Man,
up,
people
goddamn,
people
Dr.
people
Ian,
see the descriptions. They know we're spoiling. Shut up.
bro, bro. But that's like part two. No, they know we're spoiling the episode.
No,
Not
no,
the
no, no.
goddamn.
No, I put
second.
I put in description specifically that we spoil the game and the
Okay,
episode.
disclaimer. Good. Okay, then we just need to point people out that. Okay. No, so to that point, honestly, it's like Eric Williams and Corey for God of War. There's key points that are unchangeable, and I think the way getting there are the things that are kind of malleable, like how they said, things that need to happen. Atreus leaves, all these things, these three big things that need to happen. And I think in this case, I mean, we already got a glimpse at a certain hospital and a certain man with a shotgun. So for sure, there's certain things that they are not changing, like
Right.
like that scene. That's very oh my god scene, and for Bill and Frank, let's be honest, the only thing that we didn't get that a lot of people that I'm seeing, not only one of the things that I see a lot of people complain about, it's the banter between characters. Okay,
Exactly.
Bill didn't really add a lot to Ellie as a character to grow. It was just funny for us and entertaining. Quite frankly, we're getting a lot of the development for Ellie. And I think as long as we get development for these two characters for the path that they're gonna go on, which is a very, very difficult one, we're gonna be good. Okay, Tessa's dead. That was in the game. Perfect. If she was alive, that would have been like a red flag. Like, okay, like this is gonna change the story for sure.
Right.
But the story's still the same. The soundtrack's still the same. The character is still the same. There's no added characters that were not there. In fact, Bill reads Frank's letter in the game. This time it was Joel, but reading Bill's letter.
Well, it's
You
funny
still-
you mentioned that because like right, someone in the gameplay in the background they just brought up the letter.
Yeah.
Good timing.
Bro, The moments are there. It's just the execution, and I think that honestly, the things that they elaborate on, it's a magnifique. So I think we'll be fine. The red flag, we'll know when a red flag comes up, but I doubt that there's gonna be one. This is so far the best video game adaptation that I've seen.
Yeah, I have to agree with Walt that as far as the deviations go, but one thing I did, at least one theory that I've had since like episode 2, was for that hospital scene. I don't think it will be realistic with
Spoil-
Joel. Man, game spoilers.
Yeah, let's that's my bad about saying the thing about Joel. Let's try to be as vague as possible with these things. I feel like we should.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't want people to click out, because I know a lot of people are watching the show for the first time and they want zero attachment to whatever happens in the future. Because we just got renewed for a season 2. I really want people to get their head blown off from playing golf. See, I was vague there, and you got
No,
my
you
message.
no, you weren't. Shut up.
I said play golf. No one knows.
You're so on the nose. But point is that the hospital scene, I think
Yes.
the tender's gonna play a big part in that.
For sure. For
Ins-
sure.
instead
We're
of-
seeing
ins-
a lot less
inst-
human threat.
Instead of the one man army. So
Sure.
that's one. That's like
Oh, interesting.
that's one of the deviations I think is that might happen that could play to like because it makes sense, right? Because in the video
He's
game,
not Vecna, Macho.
what happened?
He's not Vecna from Stranger Things. He's not like gonna have like tentacle powers. He's not a Lovecraftian god.
No, but it's like in the video game that makes sense because you want to be a badass, and so you're going through the entire section doing what you do as a video game character. But in the show, I see it happening where like someone touches the tendrils and then all the roaches come in, and that's what helps them out, you know. But
Sure. He like uses this to their like he presses here and it's like, oh, they show up there or something.
yeah, but it's you know it's set up already that you don't want to do this, so this person's gonna do what they gotta do to get to
But
the
that's
need,
the thing.
you know.
The infection doesn't get that deep in because it's a hospital and it's like the most secure area in where is it, Boston or wherever it is.
Yeah, true.
So I don't know. Maybe they changed that. That's the thing. I don't know. So far, the environments are still the same in terms of the infection, and the infection is still pretty like spread out in certain areas. But we're gonna start getting more and more into the more concentrated sections of infected, where we're gonna see the more mutated versions. And I dread if clickers were that difficult to handle. I cannot imagine a bloater. I cannot imagine that. That is a tank you're fighting, my guy.
Yep. But yeah, closing thoughts before we get out of here. I mean, we all really love this. Is this everyone's favorite episode out of the 3 so far?
Yes.
Yeah,
Matcha?
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yes. Even my mom cried. We talked about it. Like my mom's watching the show and she watched it and she was texting through it and she was like, "Oh, I like Frank," and I was like, "Oh boy." And then at the end she was like, because Frank reminded her of my uncle, and my uncle passed away 2 years ago. Absolutely every single characteristic that Frank showed was like seeing my uncle, so her brother. So it really connected with her. And now just think about like how many people saw loved one in Bill or Frank. It was beautiful. It's beautiful. This is 10 out of 10. Can't wait for next week, or this week rather. How about you, Macho?
Yeah, same thing, man. I'm a sucker for love stories, and when something this beautiful is told in the way it is, it's you can't beat it, you know. So I think they did an immaculate job. I couldn't ask for anything better. Yeah, that's it for me. What about you, Sol?
Yeah, I don't. Episode 2 is like episode 1, obviously, as well as also they're all goddamn fantastic. But like,
Sure.
just the clicker moment in the museum, just like God, I think that's what sends it over the top for me as like my favorite episode so far of the 3. But still, like this episode and something we didn't even talk about too is just like how good of a depiction like this is of just like a relationship in general, right, Macho? Because I feel like with all relationships, it's just like, yeah, like we will have our ups and downs. We will have our moments when we argue. Bill had that great line when Frank was like, the government isn't like full of Nazis or whatever, and then Bill's like, the government is full of Nazis or something like that.
But not then.
Right, but not then. But yeah, so it's like it was really really cool to see that like yes, they are a realistic couple in the sense that like they have their arguments, they have those moments where they are completely infatuated with one another. You have the ups and the downs, so the peaks and valleys and stuff like that. So I thought that was really really like well done and how that was handled. But yeah, I really really love this episode just like you guys too. So
Yeah, let's gear for next week, man. I'm hurt. I'm hurt.
I'm hurt. He's not hurt. Buckle up.
It's gonna be dope.
yeah, man, that'd be great.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, without further ado, that's gonna close it out for us today with this little post-show discussion on The Last of Us episode 3. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Please don't forget to like and share and subscribe to the channel so we can keep doing things like this. We're gonna get started with some of these outros. Macho, what's going on with you, man? You got anything going on this week?
Crying, sobbing, weeping in the fetal position for the next couple of days. No, just gonna try and get through my week and not obsess over this episode because I don't know if that's even possible at this point. I might play some Hitman after this to kind of get my mind off of it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh man. I might rewatch the episode. Honestly, I kind of want to feel again what I felt. Like it was a very It was emotionally fulfilling. So I might rewatch it later on this week. And I can't wait, man. I can't wait for that next episode. I'll be playing more JRPGs. I've been playing Persona 4 Golden and still getting through Hi-Fi Rush. I'm taking my time with that one because every single moment I play that game, I love life. So I'm taking my time with it, and not much, man. Peaky Blinders. Watch Peaky Blinders if you haven't. It's really good.
Guys, Signalis is. I was about to drop the F bomb. I don't know if I
Yo.
It's freaking awesome, dude. This game is sick.
Hooray!
So that's what the rest of my week is gonna be like. I've been making the classic Resident Evil mistake of you don't have to use all your bullets, man, or you don't have to kill all the enemies that you go up against. Sometimes it's smarter to just run around them, and I keep forgetting that because I want these things dead, but so I just keep shooting them.
Yeah, you dummy.
Do you guys set them up on fire so they don't get up or something?
No, so that's the thing that like it has this thing where like if you shoot them, they start like twitching on the floor, so you actually have to like run up to their body and then like stomp on their head to like kill them.
Whoa.
But then like sometimes if you go to like another room, and you come back to that original room, they actually get back up. And
That's
so it's
Resident Evil
like,
1 stuff.
so it's like they're never like really truly dead. It's
Crazy.
it's crazy, but yeah, it's super fun. I think I've only played like I don't know, maybe not even like 2 hours yet, but like it's a lot of fun. It's definitely just classic RE. But yeah, that's what the rest of my week is gonna look like. And obviously a lot of school because I have 2 classes this month and I officially have started that, so that is going to be fun. But yeah, that is going to do it for the DSS crew. We will see you guys this Saturday with episode 89, right, of our podcast?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
89. Yep. So until then, we will catch you guys later. Peace out.